because selective listening is what she called it. And when it was my turn to get up and speak, she thought, oh my God, what is someone going to talk 10 minutes about pest control? And she came up and admitted this all to me and said, I was so fascinated, I didn't want you to stop. So hopefully you guys find this as interesting as we do. I am Audra Snyder, and this is Mike Foley. My title is Real Estate and Business Development. I am on a team of 17 people that we do nothing but help our local service centers get more involved in the real estate community. Our parent company, Arrow Exterminators, was started in the back of a hair salon in 1964. Starkey Thomas was a bug man, and his wife Imogene was a realtor. So they knew when they started the company the synergy between the industries and how they would help each other grow. And since then, we have become the second largest privately held pest control company in the country, and we've done it all through our real estate relationships. So we like to support our realtors not only through education and lots of funding through RPAC and class sponsorships and so forth. Arrow Exterminators has a school of real estate. So we have invested in a school of real estate so that we can create content to present to all of you, because the more we know, the better we are. So all of the things you're going to see here are proprietary to our company. All of the photos, anything, have been taken by someone on our team or staff. Now Mike is a home evaluator, so he does these WDO inspections and has tons and tons of real world experience. I'm more the book person, so I brought him for support. So just to get started real quick, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the WDO inspection. Does everyone know what a WDO inspection is? Okay, WDO stands for wood destroying organism, and that was formerly known as the termite inspection. And the reason they changed the name to wood destroying organism is because we know that there are more wood destroying organisms than just termites here in Florida. We actually have 4 of them. We have termites, we have old house borers, wood decaying fungus, and powder post beetles. Those are the 4 wood decaying organisms that we have here in Florida. We'll talk about a couple others that come up on some national forms but do not apply here in Florida, but they're good to be aware of. So that being said, we're going to go through that WDO inspection, what we look for. We're going to go briefly through the report, what you will likely see on the report, what you should never see on the report, and we'll just fill in some gaps from there. Now, I always like to start with this slide because as realtors, you are all governed by many organizations. You're not only governed by the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, then you're governed by FREC, and then you're governed by NAR, and then you're governed by FAR, and then you're governed by your local association, and so on. The pest control industry is very similar. We've got multiple layers of organizations that we are beholden to. We have the National Pest Management Association, we have the Florida Pest Management Association, we have the Structural Pest Control Board, and so on and so forth. So our industry is incredibly strict, much like yours, as to what we can do, not only in terms of what is allowed on that report, but how we remediate, the chemicals we use, the dilutions of those chemicals. Everything is very strict. And so I just like you all to know that we're under these governing bodies much like you, and we don't have much ability to be creative in our work in terms of the execution. So one of the things, the National Pest Management Association gives out what is called a Quality Pro designation. That Quality Pro designation is much like your Realtor designation, in that we have to operate under a certain set of business ethics to maintain that designation. Now, less than 3% of pest control companies actually qualify for that designation, so we are in a small group of folks. And it's not only how we fund our company, how we grow our company, it's truth in advertising, it's how we hire, train, and retain our employees, Every employee goes through a criminal background check. We have to take an online driving class, an on-road driving test. We must always show up in clean uniform, and so on and so forth. So there's just a lot that goes into not only presenting the most professional image to you and your clients, but also ensuring your safety. So we are a Quality Pro member, and I just wanted you to know that if you're ever meeting someone in a vacant home, we've all been vetted, you're all going to be safe. So we take that very seriously. So starting out with our... Is it on? We have a class called Games Houses Play. It is a 3-credit CE class that we offer, and this is going to be kind of a slice out of that class. And bottom line is, Florida is the #1 state for termites in the country. How many of you knew that?
Oh, wow.
Yes, #1. So it's very, very, very important to have this inspection. Even if you don't have an inspection period in your contract for some reason, it's still critical to do this for your buyers. Also, we do pre-listing inspections for your sellers free of charge, so you can always ready the home for that WDO inspection before you're under contract. And that's a really brilliant thing to do for your sellers. But a lot of the homes here in Florida are built on what is called this monolithic slab. And that just simply means that this slab is poured in one pour. It's all one unit. And the biggest misnomer or fallacy that I have heard, I've been with this company now 9 years, is that my home is concrete block, I cannot have termites. Well, I'm going to tell you that is absolutely false. A termite only needs 1/32 of an inch to get into a home. And that means stress cracks that invariably happen. If the builder leaves some grade stakes for some reason, which happens, that's just a highway into the home for termites. That's their food, and they're coming in. The little penetrations, for your plumbing penetrations next to them, they can come through those. So termites can get in so many different ways, and this is really, I don't know if this has a problem. I'm sorry, this is not mine. I should have checked it out beforehand. Okay, I'll point with my finger. But in between, like if there's brick veneer on the outside, they can get up in between that brick. There's just many, many ways, and so I wanted to just show you this slide so you know that a wood frame home is not necessarily more susceptible. It's just a matter of having continued inspections and keeping your eye on it. We have many, many, many team members that live in wood frame homes. It's not a reason to not purchase a home if there are termites either. It's fixable, it's doable. So we just want to make sure that that's not why you're running from a contract or your buyers are. So this is subterranean termites coming through a stress crack. And again, these are pictures of instances that we've run into. That is a termite tube coming through a plumbing penetration. So subterranean termites, they must stay under or in that dirt in order to keep their moisture, and so they build those tunnels, and that's what they're doing, is they're building their tunnel through that little plumbing penetration there. Now, for me, I probably would have just thought this was dirt that had splashed up onto the brick, but that is a giant mud tube. And obviously, that's probably not from here in Florida. That's a crawl space. It's probably one of our, out of our, somewhere in Georgia, but we do have a few here, yeah. So in this slide, we're just showing, termites, they eat wood. I mean, they literally are here to help with decaying wood in the forest, wherever. And we have built in their habitat. So there are a lot of things that could potentially be enhancing their ability to get to your home. For example, the wood pile that's sitting next to the home, that's just food for them. That's just asking them to be right up next to your home. They can be in your fencing, they can be in the trees. And you can see they can have subsidiary nests These are amazing little creatures. They forage 24/7, 365 days a year. They do not sleep, and they can travel the length of a football field in a day to get food. So they're constantly working at providing food for their colony. And we're going to go through a breakdown of their hierarchy as well. But most homes, even that are concrete block, do have some timber supports. They have their roofing, the framing for their roofing. There's always going to be wood somewhere that these little guys would love to get at. So keep in mind, if clients have wood piles, if you're doing a listing, get them away from the house. Even with your mulch. Mulch should be turned periodically because they like mulch too. It's wood. So you can see we're in the heaviest zone down here in Florida, and the reason for that is we're surrounded by water, and they need water to live. Now, the other thing that contributes to that is, of course, we don't ever have freeze, which would, in the northern parts, they at least get a freeze that helps to control the population a bit. We don't get that here. So we are the #1 state, as I had mentioned before. This is a map that I find so interesting. This is a map done by the University of Florida. Every one of those dots are instances of where termites have been found. Each color and shape are a different type of termite. Now, if you might imagine, for this map to be possible, someone, like Mike, found termites, had to grab one, put it in a test tube, and send it off to University of Florida. What's the percentage do you think maybe that happens? Don't know, but there's probably a lot more than you're seeing here. The cool thing about this map, if you Google University of Florida termite map, excuse me, you can zoom into neighborhoods. If you're looking for a buyer, you can zoom into that neighborhood and see if termites have been found in that neighborhood. Again, it's not going to be exhaustive, but it's a good reference to see where higher concentrations are. So again, just Google that map. You can see how the keys are just incredibly infested is the best word. So, how many billions of dollars each year do you think termites cause? Any guesses?
In our country?
In our country. No guess? It's $5 billion a year. $5 billion, that's more than fires, storms, and earthquakes combined. Does your homeowner's insurance cover termite damage? No, it does not. This is all on the homeowner. So this is why it's so important to have those regular inspections. So this is the caste system of the termite. You can see there's a king and a queen. The queen's job is solely to have babies. And the king's job is to make sure the queen is having babies. The soldier protects the colony. The worker goes out and finds food, and then the swarmers create new colonies. So right now we're in swarm season. Has anyone noticed or heard of anything going on with the drywood termites right now? No? Well, swarm season comes typically in the spring, and they literally will leave the wood to find a mate. They fly out, they find a mate, they go back in to start their own colony. And that's how they perpetuate. So your subterraneans also swarm, and it tends to be a little bit different timing than the dry woods nowadays. But again, it's just simply to protect the colony. And it's so interesting because if you ever run into one of those mud tubes, if they're live termites, if you stick your finger and mess up that mud tube, you'll see little workers stick their head out and they'll go right to work on repairing that mud tube. So that's how we'll know if there's live termites. again, the king and queen, they're producing eggs. A queen can produce up to 1 million eggs in her lifetime or more. So it's just a constant thing. And the eggs will then turn into larvae. And at that point, it is then determined what they become. And what they become is determined by what the colony needs. So at that point, they may become a nymph, which becomes a supplementary reproductive because the queen says, oh my gosh, I need help. And then their job is to help her produce more babies. Or it can become a worker. Or it can be, I just lost the name, what's the other one? Soldier for the colony. So the soldiers, again, they keep the colony protected. The worker's the one that goes out and finds the food for the colony. So ants also fly and have wings, much like termites. And they're often confused. You know, we often get them confused, not we, but people, because they look similar. So here are some of the main differences between the two. You can see an ant has elbowed antenna, where a termite's antenna is straight. The wings are unequal in length on an ant, where on a termite they're going to be the exact same size. Now for people with old eyes like mine who can't see anything unless they've got these on, the easiest way is the pinched waist. An ant has a little itty bitty pinched waist, like my aunt is skinny. Think of that, my aunt. And then the termite actually looks more like a piece of rice. It's just a little fat, consistent little thing. So there's no pinch in the middle. It's just pretty much all the same size all the way down. So I've actually had people come into the office with bugs in a bag and saying, "Is these termites?" And I pull this out and we go through it and it wasn't. Thank goodness it was ants. So if you ever have any questions about something you've run into, you're welcome to take a photo, send it off to Mike, and say, "What the heck is this?" He's happy to identify it for you. It's just really important to put something in the picture that gives him a size indication. So a point of a pencil, a dime, a penny, something so he can gauge what he's looking at. But he's happy to help you do that. So this is the wood destroying organism inspection report. Each one of you got a copy of this report. I'm going to grab one myself. So at the top, you're going to have our company name, you're going to have the person who inspected it, you're going to have the address of the location and all that pertinent information. But as you go on through the report, there are a choice under section 2 of no visible signs of wood destroying organisms. That's a clear report. Visible signs, and then live. The difference between visible signs and live are that live means live. He's seen it living, crawling, moving around, it's alive. Wings on a windowsill does not mean live. That's evidence. That would go under visible. Now once, well actually, evidence is number 2 under the visible, so they would check visible and then evidence versus the live. How often do you find live?
It's out of active stuff, probably 5%. When we find stuff, it's usually evidence or damage. So actually finding a live termite, pretty rare. But when we get to later in the report, what we're trying to cross-reference is when we find evidence or damage, we're trying to cross-reference, has the house been treated for anything before? Is there any evidence of anybody doing any corrective treatments? Because that way we can start making a better guess of what's going on in the house.
So under the evidence then, if there is damage, that's where he would list any type of damage there is that he can see. That's a critical part. So then we go into section 2, and this is going to be like inaccessible areas. As people are moving, they're packing, typically their boxes end up in the garage. We don't move their stuff. We can't move furniture, and we can't move all of those things. So in that area will be listed inaccessible places. Couldn't get into the back corner because of too many boxes. Couldn't get to the corner of the attic because of the HVAC system. Any reason for not setting eyes on every part of the home will be listed in that area.
Yeah, one of the things that, one of the actual benefits, if we can say it that way, with the storm is that a lot of people were having to replace drywall. And that was a great time to do inspections because we can see a lot more in the house. So as you can see, it's all visual evidence. So like one of the big things that you'll see on inaccessible is interior wall boards. Like we'll check the baseboard, we'll check the door frames as best we can, but behind the drywall, we can't see. So that's one of the big things we want to make sure. And then when you're doing your inspection and you have somebody else doing it, just one of the biggest things you can tell is if they've been doing a lot of them is if they actually use that section. So we've been doing this for 50 years, and that's a big, big part is inaccessible areas. We want to check that.
So it also, he was talking about evidence of treatment. Usually that's a sticker either on the water heater or under the kitchen cabinet. There's usually a sticker that indicates any type of treatment that they have had. So even if there's evidence, but there's proof of treatment, then you're good for your transaction, as long as there's proof of treatment.
So, question. So if the proof of treatment was maybe 5 or 10 years ago,
That's not good enough. It's got to be sooner or closer in. I think it has to be within 1 year.
okay.
And it depends on what type of treatment, but all of that information should be there. Did they do a spot treatment? Did they tent? What type of treatment they did. Which brings me to another big point. If a home that you're listing or looking at with a buyer has a termite warranty, should you still do the WDO inspection?
Yes.
Yes. Termite warranty does not cover the other 3 wood-destroying organisms. It does not cover powder coat beetles, old house borers, or wood-decaying fungus. It only covers termites. So you really still want to have that inspection, even if they have a termite warranty. Now, the biggest thing I have found for someone who hasn't done a lot of inspections, and where you would want to send the report maybe back to be redone, is if in this comments area they have anything about any other critter. They cannot put rats, they cannot put roaches, they cannot put ants. This is for wood-destroying organisms only. So if they mention any other critter in that comment section, you need to have them take it out and make it proper for your client. Anything else you want to add on that?
Nope, that's it.
So the Centricon system, anyone familiar with this Centricon system? Okay. It's for subterranean termites. It was originally created by a company called Dow Agra, which has now changed its name to Corteva. And this is the 3rd generation of this product. When they first started with it, it used to literally be a piece of wood that someone like Mike would come check, and if they saw termites on it, they'd say, oh, you have termites. Well, we're long past that. So Corteva has created this product, and it literally it works obviously 24/7. Termites randomly forage, so this does not attract them. They just randomly run into it as they're looking for food. But what they've learned is that they like the active ingredient in here is called novaflumaron, and they like it better than wood by about 10 times. So once they find it, they lay down a pheromone trail so all their buddies can get back to it. Well, the active ingredient in this product prevents the termite from molting or shedding its skin. And I'm sorry, it sounds so sad in a way, but they suffocate is really what happens then. But the workers, they go back, they feed the colony, they feed the queen, and once the queen is gone, the colony is gone. So, we are the world's leading provider of this system. We absolutely know it works because when they came out with this generation of the system, we decided to give it to all of our current customers free of charge who had the Centricon system currently. With this new system, our liability claims have gone down by over 90%. So we really know it works. And Corteva, when they first launched this product, they did an 18-month study on a brand new construction home, because you might hear that a lot too, is, oh, it's brand new construction, I don't need that, I don't have termites, it's new construction. Not true. So when they did this experiment on this new home, they dyed each one of these sticks a different color so they could see through the translucent body of the termite which bait station it had been eating off of. And what they discovered was that in 18 months, it killed 27 colonies of termites. They are always active. They never stop. New house, old house, doesn't matter. So when we put this in, we basically check it one time per year. The really fascinating thing is the gnarlier this gets with moisture or dirt, or as it breaks down and gets really gross looking, they love it more. So we don't want to disturb it but one time a year. And each one of these, you can see on top of that stick there's a barcode, and on the lid there's a barcode. So the bait and the station are matched. Corteva owns all of these stations. When we go, we have to scan both barcodes, and so we check every single one. If for some reason it needs to be replaced, then we just match a new barcode to that station. But there's a little measurement, you can't see it on the bottom, it's just a little circle that tells us if it's smaller than that, it needs to be replaced. And depending on the activity, this product could be good for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So it's a very long-lasting thing. They only need to have just a little bit, and it's completely non-toxic to us or dogs or cats or any other type of animal. So we know it's safe around the home. Just a picture of a guy checking it. That's them on the Nova Flume run. Eek. So when we place them, we do it approximately every 10 feet or so around the perimeter of the home. And the pricing is actually based on linear footage. And I, like you, think in square footage, so it's a little more difficult for me, but that's how they price it in terms of linear footage. And again, then they just put it in, and 1 year from now, they'll check it again. Just going to show you some mud tubes, how they're getting up there and about to get into those folks' rafters. Isn't that strange? They're attached to nothing. You know, I mean, in the middle. But yeah, they'll just stack on top, or they'll even come down. So we've seen them in just, they're extraordinary. We've seen termites on the 19th floor of a condo. People frequently think their condos are, you know, fine, but it's not true. They can go as far as they need to get their food. So other wood destroying organisms, we mentioned the powder post beetle. You can see by the pencil tip, it's just a small little guy. We often don't see the bug itself, we just see the kick-out holes. And you'll see little holes in wood, and that's really what he's looking for. It does require treatment, and it can be sanded, they can be, you know, you can seal over them. But that little guy does some damage too. They enter into stored lumber, and the larva is really what reduces the wood to the powder that you see there. And then the adults will come out of that hole. That hole is only 1/32 of an inch, so it's very, very tiny. And of course it can reinfest. We sand and seal to prevent re-entry. Now the old house borer, you can see they kind of just bore into the wood and make trails. How often do you run into those, Mike?
Not as often.
Not as often.
They're more rare. They're out there, but they're more rare than the other two.
So they're usually in newer wood, sometimes come with the lumber from the lumber yard. Again, it's the larva that feeds on the pine. So again, there's one that's obviously too short to get in. So in this one, they have a nice vapor barrier. We do suggest you have that if you have a crawl space. Then there's the siding, again, wicking up the water. And the stored items we mentioned, again, impossible to get around and really do a thorough inspection in that case. And the deck on grade. Subfloor we discussed. And like a finished ceiling, this looks like maybe a finished basement, probably from the Atlanta area, but naturally we can't see in those ceilings. Standing water, that's a big problem. That's not only going to encourage the termites, but it attracts other critters. And again, not to mention the wood decaying fungus that can come from that. Now stucco homes, we saw that one that it looked like the stucco was undergrade or touching the ground. When we see something like that, I mean really the only way to fix that is to cut the stucco, and you've maybe seen this on some homes, and then seal underneath and have the stucco start above ground so there isn't that moisture getting up into their wall system. This is a big one. I don't know what percentage of homes that you're finding, or even new construction, that people are doing this foam insulation in their attics. Has anyone run into the foam insulation?
It's becoming more and more popular.
Okay. Well, it's absolutely wonderful for heating and cooling and keeping the attic cool. But it's a terrible thing for pest control. We can't do a WDO inspection because we can't see behind that insulation. We don't know if there's termites behind it. You don't know if there's a roof leak behind it. So there's some contradicting things with this spray foam insulation. And even worse, if there are drywood termites, a home with spray foam insulation cannot be tented. They don't know if that, what is it? I was going to say no flu.
They're working on it. They're beginning to.
What's the gas though? Vicane.
Yeah.
They don't know if it will stick in pockets in that spray foam insulation, making it potentially incredibly hazardous. So we can't treat drywood termites on homes that have spray foam insulation.
But because it's becoming more popular, they're finding ways, basically what they're doing is making it a longer clearing out period. So usually, more information you know, tenting usually is a 3-day process, so the gas can escape, so it's safe for entry. They're starting to experiment with the spray foam. They're talking about a week-long process to get all the gas out of the house.
We have a gentleman named Rick Bell. He's our the head of our government affairs, and we're working really closely. The industry is working really closely to come up with a solution. The interesting thing is that the company that makes the spray foam insulation also makes that Vicane gas. So, go figure. They're also talking about putting in a window, which is kind of a slice out of the foam so that you have a way to see, but then that ruins the encapsulation. So hopefully they'll have some sort of solution coming up soon. I know that in the Georgia Realtor contract, they have updated it with wording regarding spray foam insulation. And I'm hearing that that's coming to Florida, although I don't know when or how long that will be. So it's going to become much more well-known in the future. That's really it. Do we have any questions?
The one builder out in Babcock is all their.
A lot of our custom home builders, like I have a custom home builder on Pond Island, they do spray foam everything. They're custom homes, and then it's becoming more and more common, just because efficiency-wise, utility bills and stuff, it makes a lot of sense. But it does cause troubles too.
Yeah.
I have kind of a nerdy question, back on your bug diagram. You had where everybody came from, except for the male mate. What
The
did that
king?
come from?
The king?
Yeah,
Well, I imagine that when,
like worker becomes a king, or?
No, it becomes from the alate. So the alate or the swarmer, they'll go out and
Oh.
mate, and that will become the king or queen.
Gotcha.
So if you look at that diagram, it's easy to find it. But when there was, after the nymph, you become a soldier, a worker, or a nymph. And a nymph will become a supplementary reproductive, or also become an alate, which is just a swarmer or reproductive to start new colonies. And that's where they come from.
So all those swarming ones could start new colonies?
Correct.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, so right now we're in the middle of our drywood season, so it's happening quite a bit right now. Subterranean termites, we're still seeing a couple swarms, but it's typically more towards the winter months. So right now it's really big in the drywoods.
So on your map with the types of termites in Florida, what do we mostly have here in Lee County?
In Lee County, you're gonna see mostly drywood termite and subterranean termite. That's gonna be your biggest. Your powder posts, wood laurel beaters, beetles, blah, 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 are not really as common, thankfully, because they're also a lot more difficult to treat, a lot more expensive to treat. So drywood termites, subterranean termites, and wood decay fungi are gonna be your three most common things to see.
so last thing real quick is that we do WDO inspections free of charge. So don't let a customer buy a home without one. And, you know, we just need a little bit of time, but again, obviously a year ago, people were forgoing their inspection periods to get a leg up. Even if you're doing that, it's still important that the inspection happens. So we just encourage you. We really want to partner with you, so if you ever have questions, we'll give you our business cards and you can just call anytime. If you scan this QR code, it takes you directly to the page on our website where you would request a WDO inspection. And again, we do those free as well as pre-listing inspections. And if you know there's a problem with a home, it costs nothing for us to take a look. So we literally from the top down feel like we are not in the business of selling inspections. That's not what we want to do.
One last benefit of having us do a pest inspection for you or WDO inspection for you is that if we do come across an issue where it's not just like this is your issue, recommend filing a qualified contractor or anything like that, we're able to give you quotes too. Because we're a full service company, we do the tentings, we do subterranean termite, we do all of it in-house anyways, so we can give you quotes.
I wanted to mention this because I actually have run into this problem. With VA inspections, the national VA WDO report includes carpenter bees and carpenter ants. Here in Florida, carpenter bees and carpenter ants are not wood-destroying organisms. They are considered to nest in the wood, but not destroy it. So, if you're working with a VA buyer, in some cases, we've had realtors ask us for that national form. But we can't report on that. We have to use the Florida Department of Agriculture form, which does not include carpenter bees or carpenter ants. So just be aware, I've run into some VA loan specialists that didn't understand that little nuance, and they were demanding a national form. We can give it as long as we staple the Florida form to it and really actually just use the Florida form, but it does come up. And so you now know more than most VA lenders. And now VA buyers can pay for their own WDO inspection. That changed a couple years back. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you.